On this Monday night, cautious optimism for peace between Russia and Ukraine. The U.S. president's high-stakes phone call with his Russian counterpart.
I think some progress has been made.
And the reaction. Former U.S. President Joe Biden's prostate cancer prognosis.
So it's not like a death sentence.
The potential treatments and why the disease may not have been detected sooner. An ultimatum from Canada and other Western nations. The potential consequences if Israel continues its military offensive and keeps restricting aid into Gaza. Plus, hockey hangover. The Leafs lose another shot at the Stanley Cup.
I don't know what to hope for anymore.
How the team may have to rewrite its playbook to succeed.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Carolyn Jarvis.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us. It's either a step toward an end to Russia's war on Ukraine or more false hope for peace in the 3-year-long conflict. Today, U.S. President Donald Trump spent over 2 hours on the phone with Russian President Vladimir Putin in a bid to jumpstart ceasefire talks with Ukraine. Talks Trump claimed would start immediately. But Ukraine still has doubts over Putin's cooperation as Russia keeps moving the goalposts and launching attacks. Jackson Proskow has our top story tonight.
A day after Russia launched its largest drone attack of the war, firing nearly 300 drones at Ukraine, U.S. President Donald Trump engaged in telephone diplomacy aimed at finding peace.
We just spent 2.5 hours talking to Vladimir Putin, and I think some progress has been made.
The lengthy call with the Russian president followed an earlier call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Later, Trump briefed European leaders and Zelensky.
We're trying to get that whole thing wrapped up. What a shame that it ever started in the first place.
Trump said the two sides are ready to start immediate talks. The Kremlin says there's no timeline, but that it's ready to work with Ukraine on a memorandum about a future peace accord. We should simply determine the most effective ways to move towards peace, said Putin.
Russia is Russia. They want something, but they even don't know what they want. And when they say they want something, they want everything.
Pressure has been mounting on all sides to find a path forward.
With us, you start having cards.
Right
now,
Trump's testy relationship with Zelensky has given way to White House frustration with Putin, who has so far refused to work toward peace.
We want to see outcomes. And the first major outcome that we wanted to see, which we were glad about, is that we wanted the Russians and the Ukrainians to put a real peace proposal on the table.
Trump, too, is feeling the heat, facing criticism that he overpromised when he said he would end the war on his first day in office.
I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. We're going to get it settled and stop the death.
If talks do proceed, they could unfold at the Vatican at the invitation of the new Pope. Trump also hinted there's room for a large-scale trade deal with Russia once the war is over, signaling there would be no long-term penalties for Moscow for its invasion of Ukraine. Carolyn?
Jackson Proskow in Washington, thank you. Pope Leo XIV met with the American Vice President at the Vatican today. J.D. Vance gifted the Chicago-born pontiff a Chicago Bears jersey and passed along a letter from President Trump inviting the Pope to the White House. The Trump administration is hoping to reset relations with the Vatican. Before being elected Pope, then Cardinal Robert Prevost had shared articles on social media criticizing Trump's plans for mass deportations of migrants. The late Pope Francis was also a vocal critic of the Trump administration's immigration policies. To breaking news now, American automaker GM has announced it will stop exporting its vehicles to China over the trade war sparked by Trump's tariffs. In a statement, a company spokesperson pointed to significant changes to economic conditions. Ford also stopped exports to China back in April. Tariffs between the U.S. and China recently reached more than 100%. Both have agreed to lower them and negotiate an end to the trade dispute. There's concern tonight for former U.S. President Joe Biden over his sudden diagnosis of aggressive prostate cancer, and support is pouring in. Prime Minister Mark Carney says he's hopeful Biden's commitment to family and faith will carry him through. King Charles, who was diagnosed with cancer last year, sent a private letter of support. Biden's office says the cancer has spread to his bones, but as Heidi Petracek reports, experts say there is hope it can be treated.
Awareness is important.
Former U.S. President Joe Biden's aggressive form of prostate cancer resonates with Ross McDonald, who had his own diagnosis 7 years ago.
It's not like a death sentence where you're going to be gone next week or in a short period of time.
Biden has thanked supporters on social media for, quote, lifting us up with love and support. His office says the 82-year-old was seen by doctors last week for urinary symptoms and was diagnosed after a nodule was found on his prostate. The cancer, rated as a 9 on what's known as the Gleason scale, which rates the appearance of cancerous cells from 1 to 10, anything 6 or less developing more slowly than anything 8 or higher.
It's not rare that men come in with a prostate cancer diagnosis that's already spread elsewhere in the body.
This Canadian radiation oncologist expects Biden will be treated with hormone therapy, which reduces the testosterone the disease feeds on, killing cancer cells.
On average, men who are diagnosed with prostate cancer that's already spread to the bone right from the get-go, their life expectancy is measured in many years. And as I say, is that 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years? It's probably somewhere in that range.
But even as tributes for Biden pour in online, political opponents have used the diagnosis to raise questions about just how long the cancer's been there.
And why didn't the American people have a better sense of his health picture?
Having a Gleason score of 9 and spread to the bones does make it highly suspicious that this was going on for years.
Rutledge says not every case of prostate cancer is detected through the blood test used for screening, known as a PSA, which could explain the late diagnosis. That makes pairing an annual PSA with physical exams all the more important, a lesson in best possible prevention from this high-profile case. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
Families in Mexico are grieving the loss of 2 naval cadets who died Saturday night after their ship crashed into New York's Brooklyn Bridge. The sailors were a 20-year-old woman and 23-year-old man, and they were among dozens standing on the ship's masts when it collided with the bridge. Their bodies are set to be returned home soon. Separate investigations into the incident are now underway by both the Mexican Navy and U.S. transportation authorities.
This is the start of a long process. We will not be drawing any conclusions. We will not speculate. We will also not be determining the probable cause while we're on scene.
New York City police say the ship lost power as it departed the city's harbor and was pulled by the river's current into the bridge. More than 20 other sailors were injured. U.S. investigators say they're waiting on the Mexican government to allow them access to the ship. Most of its crew members have now traveled home. Prime Minister Mark Carney, along with the leaders of Britain and France, said today they will take further action against Israel, including targeted sanctions, unless Israel stops its renewed and expanded ground assault of Gaza and lifts all aid restrictions so food can reach starving Palestinians. Medical supplies are also running dry as Israel targets hospitals and medical supply warehouses like this one. Israel's 11-week aid blockade has brought Gaza to the brink of famine. And despite an Israeli order yesterday to allow aid trucks in, it's nowhere near enough. Redmond Shannon reports.
Moving again. Thousands flee Khan Yunis after yet another Israeli evacuation order, issued as part of Israel's renewed offensive in Gaza that began Friday. This woman says she and her family are tired of displacement and tired of hunger, following 11 weeks without any deliveries of aid into the Strip. But on Monday, Israel said it allowed 5 aid trucks, like these ones, into Gaza.
It's a drop in the ocean. It's less than 1% of what people in Gaza need. At least 500, 600 trucks a day should be allowed to meet huge needs.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the, quote, minimal aid is being resumed for practical and diplomatic reasons. He said he had come under pressure from US senators. International criticism came from some of Israel's other allies on Monday too. In a joint statement, Canada, France and the UK called the partial resumption of aid wholly inadequate and that Israel risks breaching international humanitarian law. The statement threatens concrete actions unless Israel ends its offensive and blockade. The statement also condemned members of the Israeli government who have suggested Gazans will eventually be forced to flee the Strip. On Monday, Netanyahu also pledged that Israel will take control of all of Gaza. The Israeli leader said this partial aid resumption is just a stopgap until a US-backed aid plan takes effect. That will see private firms distribute aid under the protection of Israeli soldiers. Netanyahu says it will prevent trucks from being looted. The UN and aid groups say such a plan goes against basic humanitarian principles. Carolyn?
Redmond Shannon in London, thank you. In southern India, days of torrential downpours have completely swamped communities, including the country's sprawling tech hub. Residents could be seen on dinghies, the back of trucks, and wading through waist-high water as authorities helped rescue people from their homes. Locals say the flooding has been made worse by poor sewage infrastructure. Canada Post says it's been issued strike notice from the union representing 55,000 postal workers. The Crown Corporation says workers intend to walk out and hit the picket line Friday morning at midnight. That's roughly 6 months since the last job action, as negotiations for a new collective agreement stall. The Postal Service is also facing financial struggles. A recent report by a federal mediator found the company is effectively bankrupt. Hundreds of people in northwestern Ontario have been forced from their homes due to threatening wildfires. While across the border in Manitoba, 13 fires are burning, 3 of them out of control. Fortunately, the fire in Lac du Bonny is now being held. That fire killed 2 people and destroyed dozens of homes last week. Hersh Singh has the latest on the firefight on both sides of the border.
While some rain and a temperature drop have helped Manitoba communities fighting wildfires in the east, it's still a fight to get the upper hand.
The last updates have shown no major spreading of the fire, but it also is still considered an out-of-control fire. They haven't fully got containment of it yet, so it's still a high-risk situation.
Those fast-moving wildfires have also forced more than 800 people from their First Nation in northwestern Ontario. Ken Pickering, who was forced to flee Whiteshell, says the community was surrounded by multiple wildfires and an early evacuation was the right move.
We've got the Nopaming fire above us. We've got Lac du Bonny that's still burning and the one on the east. So we've got 3. We're surrounded by 3 considered out-of-control fires. So I think Manitoba Parks is playing it safe.
And over at Lac du Bonny, where 2 people died, more than 28 properties were lost and countless wildlife.
The magnitude, we were advised that it was burning at over 1,600 degrees and it was jumping ahead. You know, it was traveling at over 5 kilometers an hour. It was like, it's a demon that has a mind of its own.
About 1,000 residents were told to leave and some have been able to return.
We would estimate approximately 150 last night into that zone number 6 where the restrictions were lifted.
The situation is far from over and precaution will be prioritized before letting anybody back in. Hersh Singh, Global News, Winnipeg.
Toronto Maple Leafs fans are feeling defeated again. Coming up, the heartbreak after the team lost another Game 7 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Well, the Edmonton Oilers are now the only Canadian team left with a shot at lifting the Stanley Cup this year after Toronto crashed out of the playoffs last night. While the Leafs enjoyed one of their best seasons in years, it ended with a disappointing blowout loss at home to the Florida Panthers. As Lexi Benedict reports, fans are still in disbelief about the result.
It's a painful case of déjà vu as heartbreak and disappointment sweep across Leaf Nation.
I don't know what to hope for anymore. It's brutal. This performance today was not the best. I'm lost of words now.
The Toronto Maple Leafs end another playoff season, losing 6-1 to the Florida Panthers in Game 7. A story that feels all too familiar. Fans packed inside and outside Scotiabank Arena.
It was the loudest the building has been all year, and the players still couldn't bring it for the fans in the buildings.
A glimmer of hope from Max Domi. That quickly faded with the Panthers scoring 3 more in the third. A big loss on home ice. Jerseys being thrown, fans leaving early, and the day after, still mourning the loss.
It's pretty devastating. I thought we were so close, but I don't know. It's pretty sad.
It just didn't seem like the team pulled up their socks to play.
Podcast host John Vivero says some changes could be coming.
I think Mitch Marner, the smart and just logical thing after a decade of disappointment like this is just to move on.
And could it be the end of the Core 4 era?
You have 4 guys making $11 million plus. There's results that need to be brought with that kind of money being handed out to certain players.
And I just thought we had too many passengers throughout the rest of the game and just weren't on the same page.
We can't just follow that comment down to other players when those 2 guys may have been the biggest passengers in that Game 7 specifically. They did get further in the playoffs. They definitely have made some progress. But when it comes down to it, the biggest issue in this team has been not showing up in big games.
But not all playoff hope is lost.
We're just happy the Oilers are still in there.
Lexi Benedict, Global News, Toronto.
Ahead, the impact of Trump's trade war on a border town in Washington state and the mounting anger among residents. A small Washington state border town is paying a big economic price for Trump's trade war. Many Canadians are avoiding travel to the U.S., which is stoking tension with our southern neighbor. Anne Gaviola has more on the tough decisions being made as tariffs and anger hammer businesses reliant on Canadian tourism dollars.
Business at the Rubber Duck Museum in Point Roberts, Washington is not all it's quacked up to be. Trump's tariff war and tirades about annexing Canada have kept Canadian visitors away.
We literally woke up one day to just emails of just regulars who said, I'm sorry, I can't come anymore. I cannot support your country. I cannot support your government.
So this summer, it's taking flight from the tiny border town, isolated from the U.S., except by boat or plane, to Canada.
As the dominoes start falling, more will fall because you need restaurants to bring people into town. You need things to do.
A dramatic plunge in business forced this parcel shipper to shut down after a quarter century. 99% of its customers are Canadians.
The difference between COVID and now is people still wanted their stuff, so people were ordering and we'd ship to them. And now a lot of customers just don't even want to come. Lots of them have said, we'll see you in 4 years.
According to the U.S. Travel Association, we've only seen plunges in travel to America of this magnitude twice before in the past quarter century, in the months after the 9/11 terrorist attacks and the first year of the COVID pandemic. This dual citizen and tavern owner has a bone to pick with the way the U.S. president picked this trade war.
You want tariffs and stuff, there's a proper way to do it, but why would you treat our allies, make fun of them, calling it 51st state? Like, what's the matter with you?
Ottawa's top diplomat in Washington says initial negotiations with Trump's team will focus on lifting tariffs, but small business owners on both sides of the border worry it won't come soon enough.
Even if he said, well, we're going to remove the tariffs, I think the damage has been done as far as how they feel about it.
Anne Gaviola, Global News, Toronto.
How a BC woman is making waves in support of her family and autism awareness. That's next. A BC woman is making waves for a good cause this month. She's trying to paddle 365 kilometers by the end of May to raise money and awareness for autism. As Claudia Van Emmerich reports, the fundraiser started last year as a personal journey and has since inspired others across the country.
Kim Ingalls is hitting the water a lot these days.
Pretty much most days. I will take the odd recovery day.
The Kelowna woman putting in some serious distance, paddling on her ski surf during the month of May.
I am paddling 365 kilometers for the month.
All part of her second annual Making Waves for Autism, raising both funds and awareness.
The whole idea behind the 365 is that autism doesn't take a break. It's something that impacts autistic individuals and their families 365 days a year.
A cause near and dear to her heart. Her cousin Tyler, a passionate autism advocate, died in 2023, leaving behind a son on the spectrum. Ingalls taking over the advocacy in honor of Tyler and her nephew Ryder.
There's really not a day that goes by that I'm on the water doing this that I don't think about them. It's very top of mind for me, for sure.
Last year, Ingalls raised $46,000 for Autism Canada as the solo participant in the fundraiser she created. This year, she expanded it, inviting anyone and everyone to join in and help fundraise.
The response has been amazing. So across Canada, I've had people reaching out.
Money raised will go to Autism Canada for programs dedicated to speeding up diagnoses and access to services. But equally, if not more importantly, the organization is happy to be raising awareness as it all helps reduce misconceptions that continue to exist about the condition.
People still have that view of someone who is disabled, and that's not necessarily the case. We have autistic individuals who are leading organizations. I myself am autistic. My children are autistic. And, there are no limitations on what we can do or what the autistic community can do.
An empowering message that Ingalls hopes makes waves
for autism acceptance, which is so important
across the country and beyond. Claudia Van Ammer, Global News, Kelowna.
And that is Global National for this Monday. I'm Carolyn Jarvis. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Powell River, BC, Elliston, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories. Keep sending your pictures of Canadian pride to Global National at globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Donna will be back with you tomorrow. Have a great night.